Many people have come to believe that the media plays a significant role in the actions and behaviors of those who watch, listen, and read it. Some even believe that it is teaching people and children that violence is okay through mediums like movies and video games. But we cannot blame the media for the behavior of people around us, but instead blame ourselves. The media doesn't have a hand in creating our beliefs because the media is only reinforcing our pre-existing ones. Communications professional Joseph Clapper created the reinforcement theory. And in 1960, he developed a series of generalizations that were intended to serve as a roadmap for defining if, how, when, and why the mass media may influence behavior. His theories and generalizations were then turned into a book known as The Effects of Mass Communications. In this book, Clapper discusses that perhaps we aren't influenced by the media much at all, but instead the people around us who share our already formed beliefs. He wanted to show that the media influencing individuals much more than meets the eye. He wanted to either prove or disprove theories that already had been created revolving around the mass media. For example, the magic bullet theory. This theory discussed how the media had an immediate effect and influence on people. It also stated that the media institutions had the ability to manipulate human behavior. Clapper believed that for many, the magic bullet could be a good explanation for things like antisocial behavior that would be difficult to explain otherwise. But Clapper disagreed with this theory anyway. Instead, Clapper believed that reinforcement was the result of the following: selective exposure, selective perception, and selective retention. Meaning that everybody is exposed to things differently, we all perceive things differently, and then we retain information differently. Meaning that reinforcement, in a way, is in a case-by-case basis, and not really a generalized thing. Reinforcement of beliefs is also something that develops over time, and continued exposure to something consistently may influence behavior, but in most cases, Clapper said, it must be over a large stretch of time to notice a difference, and it is very uncommon. The reinforcement theory and parts of it can easily be compared to that of the uses and gratification theory, where people seek out information that will bring them gratification. You use something to make you happy. Clapper actually also pointed out that the individuals generally tend to expose themselves to information that is consistent with their beliefs, and will even reconstruct information incorrectly to make it consistent with those beliefs. If someone were to see something that is opposed to what they believed, then they will be more prone to hunting for media that coincides with what they believe and then reinforces it, bringing them gratification. This is also something that we commonly see with something called the social media echo chamber, which I will discuss shortly. A good example of the media not creating your beliefs, but instead of reinforcing pre-existent ones, would be the case of O.J. versus the People, which has been highly discussed and highly shown in the media. Before the trial, some people already believed that blacks and whites were not treated equally in the court of law, meaning that they already had a pre-existing belief about the justice system. And then the media further pushed the point that evidence wasn't handled as carefully as it should have been, making it look like somebody was trying to frame O.J. This then reinforced the pre-existing beliefs of the people who believed in inequality. The media played a role in this. These people were already predisposed to this belief. As O.J. went free, many of the people who were not predisposed to this belief didn't understand how he could get off so easily with the overwhelming amount of evidence. Political advertising is also something that plays a significant role in further influencing us and our beliefs towards a certain candidate. In a quote that I found in an article about Nigerian political campaigns, discusses perfectly the purpose of political advertising. They said, the essence of political advertising is for the buyers, the electorates to just come and buy the product, but to appeal to their emotions, in order to win their votes. The market is likewise a group of people who share a common interest, need, or desire, which may be satisfied by the election of political candidate. This kind of political advertising we see all the time and can be found using different mediums. Television, commercials, posters, newspaper ads, phone calls, postcards. It's never ending. And unfortunately, we saw it greatly during the 2016 campaign. But out of all mediums, television is said to be the most successful medium in political advertising due to its use of sound, picture, and video. In the 2016 election, we had a great chance to see many political ads, which wanted to pin Donald Trump's and Hillary Clinton's supporters against one another. These ads were more than less aimed to show the other candidate in a bad light, and wanted to appeal to people's already established beliefs. For example, Donald Trump focused more on the Republican candidates and the blue-collar workers, the farmers, the factory workers, the people who were losing their jobs, by saying that he was going to bring jobs back into the country. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, focused more on Democrats. She focused on the LGBT community. And she focused on stricter gun control laws and things like that. And this made these two candidates polar opposites. They were targeting viewers by focusing on a certain group so that they can work on the beliefs that they already had established. They wanted to make sure that that person stayed on their side and voted for them. Now, the media didn't create the person's view of that candidate, but instead just reinforced what they already believed, good or bad. And unfortunately, political bias through news stations is very common as well. So some stations you'd see would talk about Donald Trump in good light, or would talk about Hillary Clinton in good light, and then on others would talk about them badly, which also played a role in reinforcing whoever was watching the shows or ads. Another article that I found interesting focused on youth smoking and how the media reinforces it in good and bad lights. According to the article, they believed that smoking could create a predisposition for people to smoke later in life. And that's involving ads. According to Clapper's theory, media is not what creates the predisposition, so this would be false. But instead, he says that predispositions is much more likely something created from being around other people. In this quote by Robert Wicks, it says, "The adoption of views held by a group or conversion is likely when one resides within or is in frequent contact with a group holding clearly defined attitudes and beliefs. Thus, human interaction is probably far more likely to alter attitudes and beliefs than are the media." Meaning, in this article where it says that youth smoking is created by ads on the TV, it's false. Instead, yeah, it could be reinforced by the ads, but first you're being predisposed to it somewhere else. Fake news is also buzzed about when it comes to reinforcement and our beliefs, both political and non-political. And to the average reader, fake news is false information or propaganda being passed off as accurate information. Unfortunately, fake news is much too real in journalism due to bloggers and people who want to sway others from a certain viewpoint, or people who are not industry professionals. Like Clapper said before, some people are even willing to make up information to go along with their beliefs. One person that we heard mention fake news multiple times was Donald Trump in the election. If something didn't talk about him in a favorable way, then he would consider it fake news. But this fake news could reinforce people in a bad way if it's giving you the wrong information. Fake news also goes along with the social media echo chamber, which focuses on filtering out opposing viewpoints and creating a sort of echo chamber for yourself. This is many times for people who want to avoid confrontation and like to surround themselves with only people who agree with them. Some people go as far to delete or block someone with an opposing viewpoint. And the problem with this is, once again, like Clapper said, sometimes people seek out things that reinforce their pre-existing beliefs. They want to focus on stuff that is only going to bring light to what they already believe. And the social media echo chamber is a perfect example of this. They are filtering out any information of opposing viewpoints, or anybody who may disagree with what they believe. And instead, they are surrounding themselves by people who believe the same things as them. I saw this many times throughout our 2016 election. I had people who threatened to unfriend people, who would get in arguments with people who did not agree with them, who would block them. And like this statement from Karsten and West, in the current climate of negativity, many social media users choose to avoid confrontation with those whom they disagree, which begins with ignoring material they find offensive. In conclusion, Clapper's theory discusses many great points. The media cannot create opinions of ours, but only reinforce what we already believe. Our actions are not because of the media, but exposure to certain reinforcement over time that could have an impact on behavior. People many times try and only reinforce what they already believe or go looking for reinforcement, like those stuck in the social media echo chamber. Unfortunately, blocking out opposing viewpoints doesn't lessen confrontation, but instead makes opinions stronger and harder to discuss.